So today I watched Avengers Infinity War for what's probably the 11th time. I've lost count by this point. Each time I watch it, I'm always drawn to one particular sequence, and that's Thor's arrival on Wakanda, the epic musical sequence by Alan Silvestri, the manner in which Thor and his new friends forge Stormbreaker, and the Bifrost beam right into the heart of the battle. I couldn't help but wonder why this moment came with such emotional resonance. I know that I'm certainly not alone in this, so I decided to explore it further in this video. Please be aware that in this video I'll be discussing major spoilers for all the Thor movies and Avengers Infinity War, so you have been warned. With that being said, let's get started. Thor's arrival into Wakanda is a truly awesome moment, and perhaps my favourite in the entire Marvel saga, but it's awesome for a specific reason, because it's so meaningful. In Wakanda, armed with Stormbreaker, Thor is stronger than he's ever been, perhaps stronger than any being in the universe. He does, after all, easily overpower Thanos, even with all 6 Infinity Stones combined. Thor is only this strong because of his journey up until this point. He didn't merely inherit this power from nothing, he's had to work for it, and that in itself is an understatement. Each film dedicated to him has focused on Thor building his inner strength. In Kenneth Branagh's Thor, he's forced to give up his magical hammer Mjolnir and find strength in non-aggressive action. This version of Thor is basically a reckless teenager. He's a brash, headstrong, and egotistical child. He puts his friends in danger and threatens an uneasy peace between Asgard and Jotunheim. As he's scolded by his father, he reacts with utter petulance, feeling he's entitled to respect, even though he hasn't really done anything to serve his people, at least from what we've seen in the movie. Odin takes away Thor's hammer and tells him he must re-earn it to become worthy of Mjolnir again. It's hard on both Odin and Thor, but it's the best thing that could happen to the Callow Prince. Not only that, but he's now mortal and banished to Midgard, our Earth, without anything or anyone to help him. He has to start from scratch. This is the essence of his first awakening, from an arrogant child with unearned power to a wise adult who has proven he can fight without the magical hammer. Thor learns through fighting with Jane and the other scientists that while they may not share his godlike strength, they have their place in the team, and it's more important to save the ones he loves than to proudly prove himself in displays of vanity. Once he's learned this lesson, he becomes worthy of wielding his hammer again. Now, it'd be short-sighted to say that he's right back to the same point as the start of the movie. It's also deeply wrong. Thor has Mjolnir and all his immortal powers again, but now he also has the wisdom to know when not to use them. He's just as powerful a warrior, but he's also a leader who knows that he has to serve his people rather than just be entitled to their respect. This takes us on to the next story. Now, let's be honest, the next film in the saga, Thor: The Dark World, really sucked. It was panned by critics and wasn't received well by audiences either. It's a dark, sad film. Thor's mother dies, and it involves uncomfortable themes like genocide and sacrifice. While it was a bad movie, there's a danger of not taking it as properly representing his character arc. In fact, we can actually take the opposite to be true. Thor: The Dark World appropriately portrays our hero going through a dark period of reflection. It's about him further confronting his shadow. Now, what do we mean by the shadow? Well, the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung spent his career arguing that people in the modern era were too focused on presenting a persona, the front that we present to the world, and we repress our deep unconscious thoughts. Jung said that you have your ego, the centre of your personality, and your primary self-concept. The darkness bubbling in your unconscious is what Jung called the shadow. This consists of anything you don't want to associate with your ego. He said that we spend our time avoiding thinking about our deep wants and needs, in some cases even actively repressing them. This produces a distortion in the reality we perceive in our daily lives, and can only lead to extreme behaviour. For me personally, I used to be quite a lazy and scatter-minded person, but have since become more focused and detail-oriented. But I'm profoundly afraid of anything associated with laziness, and I actively try to block it out. Jung argues that we don't necessarily need to assimilate what we're afraid of, but that we need to confront and integrate the shadow. The best thing we can do is to be aware of our shadow, the parts of us we least want to be associated with. Only then can we integrate our shadow. Shadow work, as it's called in Jungian psychology, can be one of the most freeing activities we can engage in, leaving us feeling like we've shed a heavy load off our shoulders. Back in the film, Thor loses people close to him, most of all his innocent mother, in a needless war with a cruel race of aliens. It seems like things can't get any darker. Although he and his friends are able to banish the Dark Elves once and for all, he's lost his mother, and Loki is mortally wounded and presumed dead. Crushed by the loss, Thor declines his father's offer to take up the throne at the end of the film. If this weren't enough, we find out that Loki is actually alive and has taken Odin's place. Though Thor believes his father is proud of him, we the audience know that the future is uncertain. Where's Odin? What will Loki do now? Things are in a dark place, indeed. Unfortunately, things can get darker. Although 2017's Thor Ragnarok has one of the lightest tones in the entire series, it doesn't pull the punches for Thor. The story sees him lose both his father and his hammer in quick succession. Stripped of his status, his weapon, he's forced to fight his way to the top again. Even Asgard, the centre of his power and civilization, is destroyed. He has to question who he is and rebuild himself from nothing again. He has nothing. No home, no hammer, no status. But that doesn't mean he is nothing. He produces his own power by realizing his true abilities as the god of thunder. This is reflected in the statement made by the characters that Asgard isn't a place, it's a people. In other words, it's not about the material place, the having, but what we are and what we can do, the being. But he's not even done yet, not by a long shot. He still has plenty more to lose. In its opening scene, Avengers Infinity War starts with Thor losing his brother Loki, the All-Seer Heimdall, and half of his people, the victims of cold murder by Thanos and his children. Once again, Thor is forced to confront his shadow. He's dealt with having power inside of himself, but now he has also lost his best friends and the Asgardian people he serves. If his people are all dead, is he a ruler? If he has no friends, what's the point of it all? He doesn't have time to wallow in self-pity. He springs to action immediately and goes after the Starforge as soon as he's awake and able to travel. This desperation hinging on nihilism is reflected when he almost kills himself to activate the neutron Starforge. Thor no longer has anything to lose. If it means he has to risk his life, so be it. If it means a small chance of gaining a weapon that can stop Thanos. But Thanos isn't just the villain of this film, or even the saga. He's the object of every ounce of pain Thor's had to suffer up until this point. And now, with his magical weapon, he finally has the power to bring down a godlike retribution on all the foes he's ever had to face, all the things he's had to lose. Enough is enough. Now is the time for payback. When Thor gains Stormbreaker, he doesn't just arrive in Wakanda. In the battle on the Wakandan plains, great care is taken to show how badly the Avengers are faring in the fight. We see Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, and Rhodey all getting beaten up. Far from winning, the fight is almost lost. Then, Stormbreaker's Bifrost booms into the scene. Thor kills all the beasts with ease, and an amazing theatrical score hails his arrival. His friends, all the Avengers, look at him with delight and relief. The symbolism here is so rich, and the emotional resonance is turned up to 11. Everything is going bad, but wait, yes, we have a strong star in our team. This is a pattern deep in our psyche. The hero's arrival when all is going badly. We're tired of getting beaten up, but now look, we have a strong hero on our team who can hurt the enemy. This pattern is what we can call an archetype, another theory from Carl Jung. In his psychotherapy work, Carl Jung told about what he called archetypes, patterns built deep into our brains. He used the example of a little girl who, when allowed to draw freely, painted a picture of a powerful divine goddess character, despite only being 4 years old and not being brought up in a religious family. Jung used this example to show that some archetypes are wired into us from birth. This is why certain events, types of people, and things in our lives resonate with us so strongly. We're literally built for these moments. This moment is Thor's apex as far as his power is concerned. He can fly, he can summon the Bifrost at will, and shoot intense bursts of lightning. Thor's power exceeds those of all 6 Infinity Stones combined together. As the dwarf Atri says earlier in the film, Stormbreaker is a king's weapon, and Thor is finally the king he was destined to be. But by now, he's actually earned it through struggle. and the loss of everything dear to him. It's only through the integration of his shadow that Thor can reach the pinnacle of his strength and save his friends, although we know Thanos has other plans. Guys, thank you so much for watching my first ever video essay. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting. Please leave a comment below if you have any thoughts or if I missed anything. Leave a like on the video and definitely subscribe to my channel.